The Calvexian arrival. The silent approach. The Calvexian war fleet emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, their massive vessels casting shadows across the void. Supreme Commander Zerthax stood on the command deck of the flagship Dominator, his scaled hands clasped behind his back as he gazed at the blue planet displayed on the holographic screen. Earth, they called it. A primitive world, ripe for conquest. "Scanned complete, Supreme Commander," reported Tactical Officer Vin, her reptilian eyes glowing with satisfaction. "The planet shows minimal technological advancement. No orbital defenses detected. No energy shields. Their most advanced vessels appear to be simple chemical propulsion rockets. This will be our easiest conquest yet." Zerthax allowed himself a rare smile, revealing rows of sharp teeth. The Calvexian Empire had conquered 47 worlds in the past century. Each victory had been swift and absolute. The pattern was always the same. Arrive, demonstrate overwhelming superiority, accept surrender, and integrate the conquered species into the Empire's labor force. This backward planet would fall within days, perhaps hours. "Begin the invasion protocol," Zerthax commanded. "Deploy the first wave, 10,000 shock troops to their major population centers. Let us show these primitives the futility of resistance." The first strike. The Calvexian dropships descended through Earth's atmosphere like falling stars. In New York, London, Tokyo, Mumbai, and dozens of other cities, the alien vessels landed with thunderous force. Civilians scattered in panic as armored Calvexian soldiers emerged, their plasma weapons gleaming in the sunlight. In Washington, a Calvexian commander named Kral broadcast the standard surrender message through every communication device on the planet. His voice was cold and mechanical, translated into Earth's dominant languages. "Humans of Earth, you have been selected for integration into the Calvexian Empire. Resistance is futile. Surrender now, and your transition will be peaceful. Resist and face annihilation." The response was not what Kral expected. From every corner of the globe, the answer came back in thousands of languages, but the message was universal. No. Humanity's hidden strength. What the Calvexians had failed to understand was that Earth's primitive appearance was deceiving. Humanity had not achieved faster-than-light travel or energy shields, but they had spent centuries perfecting the art of warfare. Every conflict, every battle, every skirmish in human history had taught them lessons that no alien invader could comprehend. Humans knew how to fight, how to adapt, and, most importantly, how to survive against impossible odds. In New York, as Calvexian troops advanced through Times Square, they suddenly found themselves under attack from every direction. Not from advanced alien weapons, but from simple human ingenuity. Improvised explosives detonated beneath their feet. Sniper fire from skyscrapers picked off soldiers with surgical precision. Underground subway tunnels became death traps as human resistance fighters emerged, struck, and vanished like ghosts. Commander Kral watched in disbelief as his squad was pinned down by human forces armed with chemical projectile weapons. "How are these primitives fighting back?" he roared into his communicator. "Their weapons are ancient. Our armor should be impervious." But humanity had learned something that Calvexians had not. It was not about having the most advanced technology. It was about using what you had with maximum efficiency. Human soldiers targeted weak points in the alien armor, joints and visors, where the protective plating was thinnest. They used tactics from centuries of warfare, strategies that no Calvexian computer could predict because they were born from chaos, creativity, and desperation. The tide began to turn. In Moscow, a battalion of Calvexian hover tanks found themselves trapped in a carefully orchestrated ambush. Human forces had studied the alien vehicles during the first hour of invasion, noting their reliance on electromagnetic propulsion. Within 3 hours, electromagnetic pulse weapons, hastily modified from existing military technology, disabled an entire armored column. Russian soldiers emerged from concealed positions, their faces grim with determination. and finished what the EMP had started. In Beijing, Chinese military strategists implemented a plan that would have made Sun Tzu proud. They allowed the Calvexian forces to penetrate deep into the city, then closed the trap. Thousands of human soldiers, coordinating through encrypted communications the aliens could not break, surrounded the invaders. The battle was brutal in close quarters, negating the Calvexians' technological advantages. Supreme Commander Zerthax watched the reports flooding in with growing alarm. Casualty rates were climbing far beyond projections. In the first 6 hours of invasion, the Calvexians had lost more soldiers than in their last 5 conquests combined. "This is impossible," he hissed. "They're primitives. They should be cowering in fear." But humans were not cowering. They were fighting with a ferocity that shocked the invaders. Every street became a battlefield. Every building became a fortress. The Calvexians had expected quick surrender, but instead they faced an entire species united in defiance. Unexpected allies. As the first day of invasion drew to a close, something remarkable happened. Nations that had been rivals for centuries put aside their differences. American and Russian commanders shared intelligence. Chinese and Indian forces coordinated strategies. European, African, Asian, and South American militaries formed a united front. The aliens had expected a divided planet, easy to conquer piece by piece. Instead, they faced a unified humanity, bound together by the shared threat of extinction. In Geneva, the hastily formed Global Defense Coalition coordinated the worldwide resistance. General Sarah Mackenzie, a decorated American officer, stood before representatives from every nation. They thought we were weak because we haven't reached the stars yet. They thought our chemical weapons and metal projectiles made us primitives. They were wrong. We might not have plasma rifles or energy shields, but we have something they don't understand. We have the will to fight for our home, for our families, for our future, and that makes us the most dangerous species in this galaxy. The representatives erupted in agreement. Orders went out across the planet. Every military, every police force, every civilian with the ability to fight received the same message. Hold the line. The first victory. As night fell on Earth, the Calvexian forces found themselves in an impossible situation. They had expected victory by now, but instead, they were barely holding their positions. In Sydney, Australia, a massive counteroffensive drove the alien forces back to their landing zones. Human forces, using a combination of conventional military tactics and improvised guerrilla warfare, overwhelmed the invaders. Commander Krall found himself retreating through the streets, his squad reduced to half its original size. Behind him, human soldiers advanced with relentless determination. Their weapons might have been primitive, but their accuracy was devastating. Their tactics might have been low-tech, but their effectiveness was undeniable. "Request immediate extraction," Krall shouted into his communicator. "We cannot hold this position." Across the planet, similar calls echoed through Calvexian communication channels. The invasion, which was supposed to last hours, had turned into a nightmare. Human resistance was not just strong, it was overwhelming. Supreme Commander Zerthax stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Red markers indicating Calvexian casualties dotted the globe like a disease. Blue markers showing human defensive positions had multiplied exponentially. In less than 24 hours, the humans had transformed from scattered prey into a coordinated military force. "Sir, we've lost 30% of our ground forces," reported Tactical Officer Vin, her reptilian eyes shaking. With shaking? "Casualties are mounting by the hour. The humans are adapting to our tactics faster than we can adjust. They're learning from every engagement, sharing information across their entire planet instantly. This level of coordination should be impossible for a primitive species." Zerthax's claws dug into the armrest of his command chair. In 47 conquests, the Calvexian Empire had never faced such resistance. These humans, with their ancient weapons and primitive technology, had done what advanced civilizations could not. They had fought back, and they were winning. "Recall all ground forces to the landing zones," Zerthax ordered, his voice heavy with the weight of impending defeat. Prepare for orbital bombardment. If we cannot take this planet intact, we will destroy it." But even as he gave the order, Zerthax knew the truth. The Calvexian Empire had made a catastrophic mistake. They had invaded the wrong world. And now they would pay the price for their arrogance. Humanity's counteroffensive. The Orbital Gambit. Supreme Commander Zerthax's order for orbital bombardment hung in the air like a death sentence. The Calvexian fleet repositioned itself above Earth's major cities, their massive weapons platforms charging with enough energy to level entire continents. From the command deck of the Dominator, Zerthax watched the targeting solutions appear on his screens. In minutes, the primitive resistance below would be reduced to ash and memory. "Weapons charged to 80%, Supreme Commander," reported Vin. "Bombardment will commence in 4 minutes." But 4 minutes was all humanity needed. Deep beneath the Nevada desert, in a military installation that had been built during Earth's Cold War, General Sarah Mackenzie stood before a massive screen displaying real-time satellite data. Around her, military leaders from every nation watched with grim determination. They had known this moment would come. The Calvexians, facing unexpected defeat on the ground, would try to destroy Earth from orbit rather than admit failure. "Launch all defensive satellites," Mackenzie ordered. "Activate Protocol Aegis." Across Earth's orbit, hundreds of satellites that the Calvexians had dismissed as primitive communication devices suddenly transformed. Their solar panels folded away, revealing weapon systems that humanity had secretly developed over decades. These were not energy weapons or plasma cannons, but something the aliens had never encountered: kinetic kill vehicles, electromagnetic railguns, and directed energy lasers powered by nuclear reactors. The Calvexians had scanned for advanced technology and found none. They had never considered that humans might hide their weapons in plain sight, disguised as peaceful orbital infrastructure. The battle for Earth's sky. The first Calvexian battleship to charge its bombardment cannon suddenly shuddered as a tungsten rod, accelerated to impossible speeds by electromagnetic forces, punched through its hull. The projectile, moving at several kilometers per second, carried no explosive warhead. It did not need one. The kinetic energy alone was devastating, tearing through alien armor like paper. "We are under attack," Vin screamed, her composure finally breaking. "Multiple impacts across the fleet. Unknown weapons approaching from planetary orbit." Zerthax's eyes widened in shock as another battleship exploded on his view screen. The humans had weapons in space. Primitive weapons by galactic standards, but effective nonetheless. The Calvexians had scanned for advanced technology and found none. They had never considered that humans might hide their weapons in plain sight, disguised as peaceful orbital infrastructure. "Return fire," Zerthax roared. "Destroy those satellites." The Calvexian fleet unleashed a barrage of plasma fire at the orbital weapons platforms. Dozens of human satellites exploded in brilliant flashes of light. But for every one destroyed, 3 more emerged from hiding positions. The humans had prepared for this moment, scattering their defenses across the entire orbital sphere. On Earth, in military command centers across the globe, humanity watched their makeshift space defense force engage the alien fleet. The satellites were dying, but they were taking Calvexian ships with them. Each second bought was a second closer to implementing the final phase of humanity's desperate plan. Underground networks unleashed. While the battle raged in space, humanity's ground forces launched a coordinated offensive that would be studied in military academies for generations to come. The retreat of Calvexian ground forces to their landing zones had been anticipated, even encouraged. Now those landing zones became killing fields. In Los Angeles, Captain James Rodriguez led a battalion of Marines, supported by civilian militia, toward the Calvexian staging area at the Old Port. The aliens had established a fortified perimeter, their dropships preparing for emergency evacuation. But Rodriguez and his forces had spent the previous night planting explosives throughout the underground tunnel systems beneath the port.
"All units, this is Sierra Actual," Rodriguez spoke into his radio. "Execute Operation Mousetrap on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." The ground beneath the Calvexian position erupted in a series of massive explosions. Dropships listed to the side as the Earth itself betrayed them. Alien soldiers, thrown into chaos, found themselves under assault from every direction. Human forces emerged from subway tunnels, sewers, and maintenance corridors, having used Earth's own infrastructure as a hidden highway for troop movements. Commander Prowl, attempting to coordinate the evacuation, watched in horror as his forces were systematically destroyed. The humans fought with a creativity that defied logic. They used construction vehicles as improvised tanks, delivery drones as reconnaissance units, and civilian cars packed with explosives as guided missiles. Every element of human society had been weaponized against the invaders. "These creatures are insane," Krull shouted, firing his plasma rifle at advancing human soldiers. "They're using their own cities as weapons." But that was precisely the point. Humans understood something the Calvexians did not. When fighting for survival, everything becomes a weapon. Every building, every vehicle, every piece of technology could be turned against an enemy. Humanity's greatest strength was not their technology, but their ability to adapt, to improvise, to transform the familiar into the deadly. The turning point. In orbit, the battle had reached a critical phase. The Calvexian fleet had destroyed most of Earth's defensive satellites, but at a terrible cost. 7 battleships had been destroyed, and 12 more were heavily damaged. The Dominator itself bore scars from multiple kinetic strikes, its hull breached in 3 sections. Supreme Commander Zerthax clung to his command chair as another impact shook the ship. Around him, control stations sparked and flickered. The bridge, once a symbol of Calvexian superiority, now resembled a war zone. "Status report," he demanded. "Fleet casualties at 68%, Vin reported, her composure barely audible over the alarms. "Ground forces have been reduced to 22% combat effectiveness. Supreme Commander, we must retreat. We cannot win this engagement." Retreat. The word was poison to Zerthax. In 47 conquests, the Calvexian Empire had never retreated. But as he looked at the tactical display, at the red markers indicating his dying fleet, he knew the truth. Humanity had defeated them not with superior technology, but with superior will. "All ships prepare for emergency hyperspace jump," Zerthax ordered, his voice hollow with defeat. "Recall all remaining ground forces. We withdraw immediately." But General Mackenzie, watching from Earth's command center, had anticipated this as well. "Launch the Hunters," she ordered quietly. From hidden launch sites across the planet, a new weapon emerged. These were not satellites or missiles, but modified spacecraft that humanity had been developing in secret. They were crewed by galactic standards, fusion-powered vessels with barely functional navigation systems. But each carried a payload that made them deadly. Nuclear warheads, enhanced with every piece of alien technology humanity had managed to salvage from crashed Calvexian craft during the invasion. The Hunter craft accelerated toward the Calvexian fleet, their human pilots grimly determined. These were volunteers, men and women who understood they might not return. But they also understood what was at stake. If the Calvexians escaped, they would return with reinforcements. This battle had to end here, now, with a message so clear that no alien empire would ever threaten Earth again. Captain Elena Volkov, piloting the lead Hunter craft, spoke into her radio to the other volunteers, "Remember why we're here, not for glory, not for fame, but for every human being who ever dreamed of touching the stars. Let's show these invaders what happens when they threaten our home." The Calvexian point defense systems opened fire, destroying several Hunter craft before they could reach attack range. But the human pilots weaved through the defensive fire with skill born from thousands of hours of flight simulation and raw determination. They had trained for this moment their entire lives, even if they had not known it. Volkov's craft shook as plasma fire grazed her hull. Alarms screamed in the tiny cockpit, but she maintained course. The Dominator filled her view screen, massive and imposing. But even giants could fall. "For Earth," she whispered, then triggered her payload. The nuclear warhead, enhanced with scavenged Calvexian fusion technology, detonated against the Dominator's weakened hull. The explosion was catastrophic, a miniature star blooming in the void. The flagship, pride of the Calvexian fleet, broke apart in a cascade of secondary explosions. Across the remaining fleet, similar detonations marked the sacrifice of human pilots. Each explosion was a statement, a declaration that humanity would not go quietly into extinction. They would fight with everything they had, every weapon, every tactic, every ounce of courage. Victory and its cost. When the battle finally ended, Earth's orbit was a graveyard of twisted metal and debris. Of the original Calvexian invasion force, only 3 damaged ships managed to escape into hyperspace,